Okay.
All right, hi everyone. Thank you for coming. We have the privilege of having Elizabeth Grimm with us, so please take it away.
Good evening. I'm glad you guys all came out. I want to start by saying I am not an expert in AI. It's going too quickly for me to be an expert, but really I'm just a regular old education professor, and so I'm excited to talk to you today about AI. If you would like to have the slides, go ahead and click on this. You can do the bit.ly if you prefer. That's a little faster for you than this. I'll give you a second to get that up.
Do you mind if I take some pictures?
Oh, you know I love pictures.
All right.
Can you take pictures of them?
I'm
Looking at the slides? Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay.
I'm going to head on over to the next slide. Anyone need time before I do that? All right, so this is the agenda for the evening. We may not get to all these things. Howdy, Jack.
Hello.
So we're going to talk about some assumptions, and then we're going to look at AI just basically to help busy teachers. We're not looking at it, like for how you can write a paper or anything along those lines. We're looking at it from a teacher lens. I'm going to help you wear your teacher hat, and we'll look at how to differentiate. We're going to use D-Day as it's a 9th grade standard in social studies. Yes, D-Day, yes. We're going to look at D-Day as an example of some different things that you can do in your classroom using AI that will help you, that won't feel like cheating. We're going to talk about some of the prompt engineering, and there are two, I don't know if we'll get to both of these, but we'll look at some different kind of prompt engineering for things you can do as a teacher as well. And all the things in between are things we'll do for differentiations. So I have to start by saying there are some assumptions I'm making because I sat in on MJ and Jose's presentation. Was that last semester or was that last year? Last semester. Last semester. Did any of you go to the secondary AI presentation? MJ did. Yes! She presented and she did a fabulous job. So I'm kind of building on that. But the assumptions that I'm making are, you know what AI is. And we're just talking about generative AI, large language models. That you have used AI before, and if you haven't, then you might want to quick do it today. We'll get a chance. That you understand that AI will have an amazing impact on education, positive or negative, but it's going to be here and we need to figure out how we're going to deal with it. That you're open-minded to at least seeing how you might be able to use it as an educator because it's not going to go away. And if you go into education, it's going to be something you'll have to deal with on some level. That you know that teaching is ever-changing and a lot of work. That doesn't have to do with AI, but can we all get an amen for that one? There we go. And we agree that AI can be used for nefarious purposes, and you probably could take some of the things that I will show you tonight and use them for cheating, but we're not going to do that, right? And that we're going to use AI proceeding with caution and always thinking about ethics and related to how we can do it the right way. And then lastly, we understand that we need to keep private information out of AI. So if you are using it, you'll never put your name or addresses or students' names or anything in there, right? Any questions on the assumptions? I should say, what questions on the assumptions do you have? Okay, so this, whoops, will you please check out this, I should have done this earlier and I forgot I had this slide up. Will you do this Slido with me here? Maybe we can't do this Slido, so let's do this. Let's turn to a partner and talk about, excuse me, activities that teachers routinely do. So just turn to somebody close to you, we'll forget that it's Slido, and talk about some activities that teachers do routinely, like what are some jobs, tasks, activities that teachers routinely do, and talk with them with people near you. Okay. Yeah. Tell me what you talked about. How quickly your partner do nose goes. Ready? Nose goes. All right. Loser has to be the one to present to me. Right? So who can tell me some tasks? Just name one or two that a teacher routinely does. Zach.
Lesson planning.
Lesson planning. Yes. Is that your favorite or your least favorite part so far?
A lot of work, so probably my least favorite, but it's fun though.
This is fun.
Because you're in charge, you can make it however you want.
Ooh.
As long as it relates.
As long as it relates, right. You get to be the generator of the cool information you share, right? So, other things teacher does. Yes, ma'am. What's your name?
Aubrey.
Aubrey. Nice to meet you.
Formative assessment.
Formative assessment. Lovely. My favorite part of teaching. Oh, there you go. Grading. Grading. My least favorite part. My favorite part of teaching, right, Anna? Thank you for your help on that. All right, what do you have, Jack?
Lectures.
Lectures. All right, so we've got lectures is another activity we typically do.
Like parent newsletters.
Parent newsletters, lovely. Other, yes, ma'am.
Making professional work.
Ooh, making PLCs, love it. Can we get two more? Somebody in the middle, represent. Thank you, Melanie. Emails. Victor. What's it? Making accommodations. Well, it's almost like I paid you and I really didn't. When I speaked up there, did I say, can you say that?
What?
I didn't pay you to say that, right?
Wait, are there planted people in this audience?
Yeah, I'm trying to express I didn't plant anybody, but Victor said exactly what I was looking for, right? So probably one of the most important things that you have to do that's time consuming, that we're not all trained to do as well as we should be, but hopefully you will be when you leave here, is to make accommodations. These are some of the responses that people say an educator does in a typical day to kind of add on to what you said. Do you know where I got this list? Oh, you're so good, yes! I did use, by the way, I used several AIs, but I used ChatGPT 3.5 for anything you'll see on the sides, right? So, unless it's labeled with something else. So this is definitely a list that, you guys said a lot of these things. But we're gonna focus mostly today on differentiation. However, I need you to put on your teacher hat for everything we do. You're not a student in this instance, put on your teacher hat. You got your teacher hat on. I see Zach has teacher hat on, Victor has a teacher hat on, anybody else, we pretend. Like seriously, you got no student, get the student out, you're thinking like a teacher. All right, so let's think about how specifically, yes?
Quick question, what's the code for the Slido?
Oh, we're skipping the slide out because it didn't.
Oh, okay.
I was going to use my laptop and that wasn't clicking right, so I switched over and I have to load Slido on and I didn't do that.
Okay.
So we're just going to chat it through. All right, flexible, right?
Yeah.
Elizabeth, flexible.
Oh, that's another thing about being a teacher, flexibility.
And flexible.
Especially when there's like a pandemic and you can't teach in person anymore.
Oh, you didn't mean cartwheels and handstands and backbends. You meant like
Oh yeah.
being able to go technology, not technology, figure out what happens, what are you going to do when something bombs like this did. And so we're going to look at these bullet points. So in differentiation, we're going to look at pulling relevant vocabulary. We're going to look at writing multiple choice questions. Not my favorite thing, but it can be used in a powerful way that can be fun, it can be helpful, it doesn't have to be a test. We're going to look at lowering or raising reading levels in case you have EL students or what does Professor Hahn say, emerging bilinguals, right? We're going to look at finding standards that match the text that you're using, creating discussion questions, good discussion questions, and dispelling common myths. This is probably one that's new to you, and creating I can statements. So we're going to look at those individually here. So imagine you're teaching social studies, 9th grade, and you're talking about D-Day, right? D-Day, I don't know much about that. I am a former English teacher, but my son came home and said, we're learning all about D-Day. And I said, well, tell me about it. I thought, oh, I guess I'll use that as an example, right? He's in 9th grade, and that's a 9th grade standard that they use. So this is a Google Doc that has all kinds of stuff in it for you, but it has examples. I did screenshot bits and pieces of it, but if you want to go here, you can go to the bit.ly, or you can go here and you can get the big document. It tells you on the top of each section what it is and how it works. I'll give you a second to grab that. Anyone else need time to get it? So this is an article I took off, it's the History Channel website on D-Day. And so this is the article that I'm going to use to teach my 9th graders. This is the original, and it's here with all of its beautiful links and everything like that. That might not be appropriate for everybody in my class, but I'm going to use that article and I'm going to put it into ChatGPT, and like I said on the slide before, I used 3.5. So I entered in the article, and I put that after all of my prompts. I put a prompt, and I'd mention the article, and I'd actually put the article in so that it knew what I was talking about. And when you're talking with ChatGPT, you're having a conversation back and forth with it. As long as you're in that same chat, once I put this in, I probably don't have to put it in again. I can just keep saying the original article, okay? So just know that when I pop this in, I copied and pasted it, I just put it in, and then I started adding some prompts. First thing I asked for it to do was to pull me out some relevant vocabulary from the article. And it pulled a whole bunch. And if you have the Google Doc up, you can see, I don't know, was it 30 or 46 or something, different vocabulary words, and it defined them. This is just a snippet of that. And so it can very quickly find you vocabulary. What's one thing you can do as a teacher if students are going to be reading something that might be a little challenging for them? If you have vocabulary already pulled up like this, what's one thing you can do to help them access or be able to better read and understand the content they're going to be reading in the article, the vocabulary? Yes?
You include like vocab cards to go with the article, like in the printed.
Ooh, vocab cards. Love it. What other things can you do with vocab? no real wrong answer here, because he created. Yeah.
Like you can do like words definition activities to kind of help like bridge the connection.
Yeah, before we even read, can you give me one of your favorites?
Okay, like let's say there's like, I don't know, like the teacher might like set up posters throughout the room, and you have to like, I don't know, like match like there's definitions, and then you like might like, I don't know, like tape a vocab word on or glue it on or.
Post-it sticky notes?
Yeah, that too.
Love it, love it. Jake, you were gonna say something. I saw your hand.
I was gonna say, just like have ChatGPT lower the reading level in general.
You could have it lower the reading level so that they have more accessible. But if we're not going to, if we're gonna say we're gonna try this 9th grade level because that's what we know our students, we have evidence or data that shows that our students can access that. But if we wanna make sure they're getting it well, what can we do with that pre-teaching vocabulary?
This is like less fun than Post-it notes, but you can probably paste the list that ChatGPT gives you into Quizlet, and then they can play all sorts of games like that.
Yes. So they can practice on their own, and Quizlet has tons of different games, right? Some I like better than others. I don't like the asteroid one because I'm not a big fan. If you are, you might like that. But then in class you can play Quizlet live, right? Can you use those words and those vocabulary words in Quizlet if they've never seen them before? Can you do a Quizlet live if they've never seen them? I see scrunched faces. The answer is, oh yes, right? We call it a blind Quizlet. You learn as you go, right? Then nobody feels like, I don't know the answer. Nobody knows the answer. You're figuring out as you go. You're making guesses. And in Quizlet Live, have any of you ever not played Quizlet Live? You've all played this game, right? So you know you can do it blind. So what a fun way. Nobody knows any of the words, but maybe you do because of prior knowledge. So giving them this helps everybody know what those words are before you even approach the article, right? So this article might be written at a 9th grade level. So it might be a little challenging for some students who don't have that reading ability. But when you put the article in, have it pull out relevant words, somebody look at that dot, how many vocabulary words are on there? 40. That's a lot. That'd be a cool Quizlet Live, right? You get to play a couple times. And if you teach middle school, they love activities that are like moving around, right? They all love that. So vocabulary is one thing that you can do from ChatGPT. Remember how to do it? Put the article in, and then what do you ask for? Yep, can you give me relevant vocabulary from this? All right. Multiple choice test, not a fan. However, you can throw the article in there and say, will you please make me some multiple choice questions? Now in your Google Doc you have the answers to these, but I just posted them up here without that. You could just have warm-up questions. Every 10 minutes, just to change up the pace, you could have a question up there, one of the multiple choice questions, say, okay, who wants to take a stab at this? It can even be pre-test, like, what do you know about this already? You could have them look at some model questions and create their own when they're all done. There are so many things you can do with multiple choice test questions that aren't just a test. It could be a formative assessment, right? It could be done in a group. But having ChatGPT create some of these for you is a great way just to have that option to do, if you've got kids who are 5 minutes before the bell rings. Do you guys remember what you used to do 5 minutes before the bell rings when you were in high school or middle school? What? Pack up and then what? My pet peeve. Standing by the door. Were you in my room? No, we didn't do that. So there always have activities at the end, even in elementary, like if they're waiting for the lunch line. Have activities. It could be you put one of these up, and when they answer it, you throw up the next one. There are a lot of things you can do, but this could be something that keeps them busy and occupied after you've had the lesson, just to review, or the next day. So having ChatGPT make you some of these questions can be used in a variety of ways. What questions do you have so far? So changing the reading level, what Jake talked about. So you can change the reading level up or down, right? I mean, some of you are thinking, why would I change it up? Why would you change it up? Why would you raise the reading level? Yes?
If you have like an article at the 2nd grade level and you want to have good information, but you're teaching 9th graders, obviously you want to take that that 2nd grade.
So true. And this one was, I think, written in 9th grade, and I moved it to 2nd, and I did one at 12th grade.
You can also like differentiate it for like students in your class who like might be like gifted or just at a higher rate.
You don't want the kids to be bored. Yeah.
I was about to say, I am not an education major. I'm a psych major.
Ooh.
I'm going into school psychology. So from that perspective, you will get data from school psychs if you have a kid in special ed, or just say you're in general ed and someone's getting extra support. It's like there's data there that you will have access to, and you can see what students are falling a little bit under or very above, and that's something you can use to try and do that for the different levels.
Challenge them
Yeah.
and help them
Yeah.
access information.
I just want to say that if all my readings were like this, I would have done so much better in school. Like,
Very easy, like second grade?
I love to read, but I just get bogged down by like textbooks and like.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you. This is the 12th grade level.
Yeah.
Same article. I put in the article and I said, rewrite this at a second grade level. And then I said, rewrite this at a 12th grade level. So this one just uses a higher level of vocabulary. So the vocabulary might be a little bit different. But it is a different way that you can use ChatGPT that will help you as a teacher to differentiate for your students, right? Same article. Okay.
I like the bad guys and superheroes.
You like the bad guys and superheroes?
Yeah, from the second grade article.
Oh, wait a minute, relate this for me. That's right, yes. So, I know this is backwards. You should have your standards and then you should decide what you're teaching. But sometimes, I don't know, you might forget. And if you have, I'm teaching about D-Day, that's something that my department chair says I have to do in 6th grade. And so, what are the standards that fit with this reading? And so you can put in the article and say, what standards does this match? And it will tell you. And if you'll notice on the Google Doc that I shared with you, there are a lot more than just this. So some you might accentuate more than others depending on what you're supposed to be teaching for that particular time period. But it will find the standards for you. And from those standards, it can create I can statements. It can break the standards down. You can even put into ChatGPT, unpack this standard for me and put in the standard. And I mean, having taught English, like you look at a standard there and I'm thinking, there's a lot in this, baby. And it will unpack it and break it down to, sub-standards for you. So that can be very, very helpful if you've got a standard that you're supposed to teach and you're overwhelmed by, well, what do I do for this? This is going to take me 6 years to teach. Yep. So have it unpack it for you, or ask ChatGPT to unpack this standard in relation to D-Day, and then it will know how it can address that standard and D-Day in particular. All right. So this, you almost have to look at the Google Doc for this one because it has large categories. I asked it to put in there different ways or different discussion questions for you to have. And so it categorized them for me. And I could break you up into groups and give groups, give one question from here, and one question from here, and one question from another category down here. Give a different group, different questions. So it's generating those for you. Now, there's this caveat with ChatGPT. Always check it. Don't just assume that it's doing good things for you. But at least you have a whole bunch of questions to pull from. And this is fantastic if you're ever going to be gone and you need a substitute teacher and you want to have good discussion questions. You want to have a quick formative assessment check. You've got the multiple choice questions. You want to have some activity to do. ChatGPT can be really helpful in making the learning active, not just read this article and answer the questions on the worksheet. Because we all know worksheet is the W word and that's not good, right? What should we say instead? Maybe. What's another option? Think sheet. Think sheet.
Fun sheet.
Fun sheet. Oh, I like that one.
Guys, I have some fun sheets for you to complete. Yay.
It's a scavenger hunt. We're looking for these answers, right? It's all in the delivery, right? So, okay. So this one is new and a little bit different. So when you are learning how to lead a group discussion, those of you who are in my 270 know this, you're supposed to think about what kind of answers the students are going to have to the questions that you pose to them, right? Well, one thing to think about is what kinds of myths are they going to have? What kinds of misconceptions are they going to have? What kinds of misunderstandings is there going to be? And so you can ask ChatGPT to give you some common myths regarding whatever the topic is that article is about. So this one happened to be D-Day. And if you look on the Google sheet, there's a lot more than this, but it gives the myth, it gives the fact, it gives the myth, it gives the fact. Once again, you have to check it, but at least then in your mind, you're like, oh, I never thought that people might think that this was the beginning of the war, this was the end of the war, this was a surprise. So those are all myths that it's helpful for me to know because, especially if you've been teaching a while and you know your content, you don't always think about what somebody new coming to the situation thinks or knows. So you can ask it to dispel some myths, or you can ask it to share some myths or misconceptions about the topics. All right, and then we talked about I can statements. Can somebody tell us what an I can statement is?
Something that you expect students to be able to do by the end
Yes, and particularly that day, right? When you walk in, when you leave here today, you should be able to do this. I probably should have given you some to model that today, right? So when you leave here today, you should be able to tell me some different ways that you can use ChatGPT 3.5. It's free, it's available to you, and it will help you as a teacher, right? So tell me some of those ways. But the thing that's different about this is there is a thing called the DOK. If you walk into my office, it is the only teacher content type thing that's on my wall. I had it laminated when I was a K through 12 teacher. It stands for depth of knowledge, and it's a chart. It has 4 different levels, and it has words that go with each level. So level 1 is more simple type words, like I can recall, or I can tell, or I can explain. And then level 4, as you can see here, is I can synthesize. Level 3 is analyze. Level 2 is I can use. So the level increases as you go. So I can statements. So I asked it literally. I said, make me some I can statements about the D-Day article that include all the different levels of the depth of knowledge chart. And it gave me those. So I've got, for somebody who might be struggling to understand, maybe this is their I can statement. But for somebody who gets it and I want them to look at other sources and show me how they can synthesize, then this is the one that they have for that day. So you can individualize the lessons and the I can statements like that. Or maybe by group. Remember, sometimes you might group students by ability, sometimes mixed ability, but this might be a way to help differentiate as well. All right, can you list me a few things that you can do with ChatGPT without looking, without cheating? Can you name me 5? All right.
Create multiple choice questions.
Multiple choice questions, great. Thank you.
Create standards.
Great standards, thank you. Yep.
Discussion questions.
Discussion questions, good, thank you. Great.
Vocab, finding vocab and verbiage.
Wonderful, one more.
All
right. What kind of ideas do you have? What's an AI idea? Yeah. Can we do 5? Yeah. So don't all volunteer at once. Ready? Ready? 3, 2, 1, nose goes. All right, the last one, you gotta share something you can share to the group. I love it. Only the only children don't know what nose goes is, right? If you come from a big family, you don't know what nose goes is. Because you're like, this is, right?
We said that it could help you relate to student interests rather than you coming up with all of them. You can just type in like relate this to certain students' interests.
Oh, like related to sports, related to music and theater.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea. I have not thought about that.
Talked about making ways that you can get learners from kinesthetic or audio or visual, things like that.
Okay, so I love that, but not all AIs do that. But Bing, so if you have Microsoft Word, you can get Bing as, like there's Google Chrome, that's people use, people use Firefox. You go into Bing. Bing right now has DALL-E and ChatGPT 4, and so it will do pictures, graphs, charts, whereas the other ones won't. They'll just spit them out as text. So you can do that. You can get visual type stuff and ideas that are, it works better with Bing. So follow me, Bing. I do have that on a slide later so you can kind of see. But Bing has DALL-E, which is the one that makes the images, and it has 4.0, which will give you charts and graphs and things. So that's one that you can use to kind of differentiate for different learners. Thanks, Victor. All right. Sophia.
If you don't come from the same education background or economic background, you can use ChatGPT to give you information to help create questions that like everyone.
So make it more accessible to all students based on their cultural or their socioeconomic status background. That's wonderful. What would you put in for ChatGPT to get that kind of information?
This is like create me a question that is like a bit like that also.
Okay, so specifically like that to be
Yeah.
something that maybe takes into account all various social economic status. I would separate them, I think, in ChatGPT to get, so let me think here. I don't know, we're social studies people like Jake, Victor, what are some things related to D-Day that are like socioeconomic status? I don't know enough about that.
Well, I know that they would like send those happening in first just because they were like from
So a question related to that, should socioeconomic status be a factor, should race be a factor in who gets put into these fighting situations first? Dr. Van Dynen.
Oh, I just want to give an example. I use ChatGPT to give me case studies for my literacy class. And Andrew, who I'm calling him out, noticed weren't very diverse and wouldn't reflect an actual classroom for the most case. And so I think just re-prompting ChatGPT to say, please give me more representing a wider variety of ethics. So sometimes it's in the prompt response, right, to ask for more types of representation. So that can be a limitation of ChatGPT, at least initially.
Yes, and if you ask for pictures, like I like to look for pictures that represented various cultures and ethnicities to put on a slide, and it kept giving me white, so I'd ask very specifically. So yes, you do have to feed it that information, and it is really careful about not giving biased information. So one of the questions you'll see later, it wouldn't feed anything to me, because it kept saying this is inappropriate, and this would be a biased response. So for instance, for D-Day, I asked for a paragraph narrative from all the different countries, from the soldier from each one of the different countries, to give me a one paragraph narrative of theirs, and it wouldn't give me like the German one. It said it might be construed as biased or inappropriate, and I thought, wow. So I tried it in another one, and I got a very similar response. So we'll talk a little bit about that and how you can prompt it a little bit down the road here. Other ideas for how to use ChatGPT to help differentiate. Got 3 good ones. I have 2 more. Zach.
I said like it can help you with grouping, so like if you want to group students together, you can like mix and match, insert the student names, and then have it randomize them as different groups, and like table group maybe.
Well, first names only, right?
Yeah.
First names only. There are also a lot of really great websites out there that will do that for you too, that you can keep the names, the first names in there, and it will randomize them in various different ways, or you can have them randomize it with wheels and things, so that you can do that just as quickly. And you can do that with ChatGPT too, I imagine. I've never tried that. Maybe we should try. Andrew.
I mean, this isn't specific to social studies, but you I know I've made like a math lesson using AI that where you can use different numbers or different systems of equations. I don't know math majors, but to differentiate for higher level math students and lower level math students.
Making those more difficult, or less, so changing the difficulty level of math problems. I love it. Anybody else? All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about prompt engineering. There are 2 formats. With time, I don't know if we'll get to both of them today, but I'm going to have you try some of them in a minute. So we're going to start with a RAF. As a former English teacher, we used to use RAFs as a format of writing. So R stood for role, A was audience, F was form, and T was topic. And so that's how we would say, okay, you're going to be a soldier at D-Day, and you're going to write a letter home. It's going to be about the struggles that you've been going through. That's R-A-F-T, right? So in thinking about that same line of thinking, we can look at this. It's similar. So when we're prompting the AI, we can use that same type process. We just say, what is the role of the chatbot? So to say, you are a 4th grade teacher. And then, who is the audience? And I know when you say you're a 4th grade teacher, you might think you don't have to put in the audience, but you still want to say you're writing this for 4th graders, because it might be that the 4th grade teacher is writing it for her 4th grade or his 4th grade friends, right? And they're doing like PLCs or something, so we want to make sure we put in the audience. So who is the intended audience for the ultimate final product? The form describes, do you want a list? Do you want a chart? Do you want a graph? Do you want a story? Do you want a paragraph? Do you want an email? Do you want a letter? So the form is what you want it to be when it's done, and the topic is what you're writing about. So if it was like, you are a soldier in the English Army, you are writing a letter to your family, you're writing to your family, you want it to be a letter describing the events of D-Day. And so that would be how you put them in there to get like a narrative, to pretend like it's from a soldier. Does this make sense? You sure? Okay. I want you to try some of these, but first, let's just kind of take a look at what some of these might be. So I have just different grade levels here. What you might be doing. If you're teaching parts of the heart, you want heart illustrations with labels. Parts of the heart is your topic. 12-year-old students. Notice how it's a 6th grade teacher, but I put 12-year-old students. I think that generalizes it a little bit better, because 6th grade might mean something different in a different country, so this way we're just making it nice and fair. So 9th grade history teacher, 15-year-old students, fictional newspaper article about D-Day. So you can just kind of see some examples. Can you, on scrap piece of paper or on your technology, whatever, will you write down a way to be able to use it in your discipline with your grade? And think of something where you would ask the chatbot to take a role. Who would the audience be? what would you have them do, like what form would it be, and what is the topic? So you take a minute and do that on your own. Anyone willing to share yours, your grade level, and what 4 things you put in for the RAC? Thank you.
I did SPED, so I did my role is a special ed teacher. My audience was 14 to 17-year-olds with emotional impairments, and then I also included like with diagnoses of, and then like a list because emotional impairments like kind of differs across states. And then for F, I put a step-by-step list for regulating emotions, and then topic would be emotional regulation, anger, and sadness.
Did you throw it in a chat or an AI?
No.
I'd love to see that, because I bet there's a lot out there that they would pull to give some good ideas for regulation. For you to see and maybe pull and, make the perfect list. Oh, I'd love it. Thank you. That's pretty cool. All right. Somebody else? Thank you, Sophia.
I did for my R, the first grade teacher. For my A, I did 6 words students. My F was color by number, and then my T was basic addition and subtraction.
Ooh, that'd be a cool color by number for little kids, so they don't know what color it is till they do that's neat. Oh, that's pretty cool, that's fun. I hadn't thought about that, obviously not in elementary. Thank you. Another one? Thank you, great job.
So mine's, I just said ninth grade U.S. history teacher, 15-year-old students. I said a fictional witness diary entry, and the topic is women's rights movement and passing it the 19th Amendment.
Nice. I went to social studies. That's what you want to major in?
Yeah, specifically history.
Love it, love it. All right, so now is the time to kind of check this out. So I live my life in tables anymore because when I'm playing with AI, I want to see which different AIs give me the best response. So these are 4 I use pretty commonly. This is the one I get through Bing. So I just have different search engines up, right? This is the one you can get free, the OpenAI 3.5. Bard is probably my favorite for most things. You can't use it when you're in on your Hope account. You have to have a personal Gmail, and then you can have your Gmail pulled up and you can go in through there to get Bard. And it's just, I think it's bard.google.com. Claude is one that I use a lot because if I want to upload a PDF, it will allow me to upload a PDF, but it has space amounts. You can't put big ones in. And Pop AI is another one that I've been playing with a lot. So I tend to make charts like this. So one of the things I asked, I think it was in 270, we were talking about different roles that people can play in a group. Maybe it was 275, I don't know. But what are some interesting roles that students could play in a group that might help them stay engaged or keep them accountable or help them feel like they have a purpose in the group? And so I asked each one of these that same question. What are some roles that 4th graders could have when they're doing group work? And I got, some of them are very similar, interesting. I put them in the same order I got them. Facilitators top on 3 of the 4 of them. And when you look on your slideshow, if you scroll down, you can see the rest of them. I didn't cut it off to make it neat so that you could see all the different ones. But it might help you to look at these and say, which one do you think is the best one? And so, which one do you think is the best one? Which one's got the most interesting or unique? This was an interesting concept to me, devil's advocate. Have someone in there to play devil's advocate, and in certain fields that works maybe better than others. Illustrator, to talk to Victor's point about having people, in different modes, people who like to be more visual, they could maybe do an illustration of what's happening there. So what I want you to do is take that graph that you just created, and if you feel comfortable, go onto one of these and throw it in, but have your neighbor put in the same thing on a different one and see what kind of responses you get. So let's take a few minutes to play with what does it look like if it's in one of these. And I know there are a ton more. I know there are so many more. And magicschool.ai has a lot of different things that you can use for the classroom, but just go into a regular AI and see. And talk with your partners to see if you can each put in the same exact prompt and then see what the results are. If you need help, let's take 10 minutes to do that and just see what we get, and I'll help you if you need help getting at anyone.
You can see my old ones.
So, what do you think? What did you find? What do you want to share? Good, bad, or otherwise? My feelings aren't hurt. I didn't invent them. The AI. Yes, Jack.
I personally, like, when I gave them the prompts about, you know, the 4th grade students, I use GBT, the one we all know, and then I use 3.5, and I noticed that it just gave me the same, like, list, but just not, like, the same length. So I said, like, can I have more? And then they gave me the exact, like, second half of what was originally given to me.
Interesting. So,
Yeah.
so you use 3.5 and 3.5?
3.5, and then I think just, like, this is the new chat GBT, so I think.
The 4?
Yeah.
Where'd you get the second one?
Second one was 3.5.
Where'd you get the chat GPT 4? Were you on Bing?
Yeah, just the same thing.
Okay. And they gave you the exact same words and everything?
Yeah.
That's interesting, because usually even if you run the same question twice, it will give you slightly different answers.
But it was just like the list, like, one should be a leader, one should be a mediator, one should be like a researcher, you know.
Be curious to see, maybe try Pop AI.
Yeah.
So try one that's not just your typical 3.5 or 4.0. Anybody else? Tell me which others. Nelly.
Well, we kind of did it as a group, but we did like Claude AI and like Bing before, and we ran into a catchy chant for 3rd graders about the water cycle. They were very interesting.
Interesting bad, interesting good.
Interesting, good. Yeah, very creative.
So you could even use that as a model, like for what you'd like them to do. We want you to create a catchy, right? And here's a model of what one might look like. They don't have to use AI to do it, but it gives you an option, right? To share with them. Great, thank you. What else did you guys see? Good, bad, or otherwise?
If you don't like put an age, they'll give you something very fancy, so it sounds ridiculous, and it ends up like coming out like almost like something you wouldn't actually say or ever teach to like children.
So age is important. That's good to know. So giving it its audience is extremely important. Right? Go back in, just pick one of the things you recently put in and say rewrite, and then give it something crazy like rewrite in a Shakespearean tone, and just see what comes up. Because it does some crazy, you know, it can be fun too. You can show them different tones, you can show, you know.
You want to hear a story?
You could do like, from the 1400s, ask the readers to write like the 1400s, you know, they were talking about each other. It understands tone, right? So when you're thinking about some of the other things you mentioned about ways teachers, you know, activities that teachers do regularly that maybe you could use with AI, remember to say, you know, help me write this email in a friendly tone. So know that tone is the thing, right? And so it can change it, and you could write a parent letter in Shakespearean language. That might be interesting. I wouldn't suggest you do that, but it might be fun just if you're having a bad day to get a good laugh for a moment before you have to actually write the real letter, right?
Shakespeare unit in class.
Or if you're doing a Shakespeare unit in class, you could send a letter home in Shakespearean language, right? So there are a lot of ways that you can play with this. But I would really recommend that you look at this. Look at when you're doing something in AI, run it through a few so you kind of get a feel. Like I think I told you, I like BART a little bit better than the other ones, but it depends on what I'm doing. But you know, I like the way it words things, and so you can always say, tell me more about this. And you know, tell me more about what you mean by a scribe. I mean, we know what a scribe is, but if we didn't know. So you can ask it to tell you more, and it will give you more detail. So it's just kind of like having an intelligent conversation with someone who doesn't have feelings, but who can maybe guide you and help you when you're looking for something creative to do for your students. So, I think I might have time actually to get to the next, no, I think we'll end here. What questions do you have? Anna?
What's your favorite way that you used it in one of your classes?
In 270, we have students look at different immigrants coming into America and 5 generations of their family and how they kind of ended up where they are today based on what happened 5 generations ago and 4 generations ago and kind of how it molded. And so I don't remember where the first one came from, but I entered that into ChatGPT and said, will you make me another one of these? And then I gave specifics that this immigrant family is from Italy, or this immigrant family is from Cuba, or this immigrant family is, and so then it gave me details that, so we could have almost like 5 case studies. So I just did it from different countries and had them use the one as a model. So my favorite way is to put something in that I like, that's a good model, whether I've written it or I found it somewhere else, and say, you know, use this as a model to make, and then the same thing, only I want the immigrants to come from Mexico, or I want them to come from wherever. So using it as a model and putting something in. You can't do that for everything. If it's a PDF, you can use like Chat PDF, or you can use Claude. They both take PDF. Otherwise, you might have to copy and paste and stick it in there, your model, but it can't be long, so it has to be something short. But using it to, like DVD said, you know, case studies. You can have it create case studies. And you can specifically say, like, I want the case study to be on a student who has and name a particular disability. So I think it's good to use like that, because otherwise it would just take so much brain power for me to create all of those, and I can take the ones that are there and tweak them. And so that's probably my favorite way. Thank you for asking. Other questions? What do I have to count to?
16.
I love you guys. So if you, even though I don't have it showing on the screen, if you continue, you have the slideshow. There's the second way you can prompt engineer, so you can look at that on your own time if you like. I give some details, but you can continue to look when you open it up. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Can you see the ones that say skipped? Okay, so if you have access to that, there are other things. I could spend days talking about AI and different ways that you can use it in the classroom. So this is just one, just differentiation. I mean, we can get into parent communication and ways to get you started. I know parent communication was hard for me. Like, it would take me an hour to write an email, and I was an English teacher. I should be able to write, right? I didn't know how to get started. So sometimes that's a way to, like, to put in the prompt. Like, this is the situation. This is how I want to respond. I want to have a positive tone, and it will help, you know, give me something to start with, so I don't feel that writer's block. So I don't feel like that's cheating. I feel like that's saving me a lot of time and stress. And I'm still writing a letter, but I'm just getting some guidance and some help. It's kind of like talking to your principal and saying, what would you say in this situation? Only you didn't debug your principal, right? We could talk about a lot of things. If you ever want to, just come see me during office hours, or just make an appointment and come see me and we'll play on AI. Otherwise, thank you for your attention and your time today.
You guys want credit? You fill out your book. If you have more than one professor that you need it to go to, just fill it out more than once.
Did we do that for your class too?
And the memory